Hi, John. Welcome to Jeff's Podcast Academy. It's so great to have you here. You are the nature, and I'm really glad because it's like 40 degrees here and it's burning, but you're enjoying the nature. So please tell a little bit about yourself and how you started in your, journey so far.
Mhm. Hi, Jeffrey. Thanks for having me on your show. It's a privilege and a pleasure. I am a small business owner, so I have a small business creating mobile applications for podcasters, very specifically. So it's a side business right now. It's not my full-time job. I have a day job as a software product manager,
Mhm.
but this is a small business I started about a year and like 2 months ago. So January of 2021, I started it. And the goal is to help podcasters basically have an app, their own app,
Mhm.
on the app stores. Apple App Store, Google Play. You can have an app for your show
Mhm.
on the App Store, so your listeners can download your app, and you're not sharing that space with anyone else. It's for you. It's branded just for you, and it's a place where your listeners can get more content,
Mhm.
of course, and engage further. But ultimately, for the podcaster, it's the place where the listener becomes a customer or a financial supporter.
Mhm.
So that's called conversion. I know you're aware of that marketing term, but converting listeners or consumers into um, customers and financial supporters is, I mean, that's what makes a show a business. And in my opinion, I think every content creator, whether you're a podcaster or a YouTuber, ultimately you are a small business owner. And the goal of your content is to continue making good content and growing your audience. But in order to do that, you have to generate an income from your content. And that conversion from content consumer to customer happens on your website. And if you have a mobile app, it would happen on your mobile app. It doesn't happen on Spotify. It doesn't happen on the Apple app, the Apple podcast app. It happens on your app or your website. And so that's the business. I wanted to make it affordable for anyone to have a mobile app for their show. And so, yeah, I've been going for a little over a year, and we have a small community of customers, around 40 customers, 40 podcasters and networks, and growing slowly but surely. And I'm hoping to continue growing this year, getting the word out.
Awesome. That's really great. So I'm always intrigued by the backstory of a particular, origin of business idea. So any spark, like how, this idea
Yeah.
popped up, anything?
So I love podcasts naturally. I'm a power listener. It's the primary way I consume content now. I don't watch TV. I'm not on Netflix. I'm not on YouTube. It's mostly through my ears I consume content. So as a fan of the medium, in the early days, I thought maybe I can make a social podcast app, an app where listeners can interact with each other. They can have conversations about the content that they're listening to. And this was like 3 or 4 years ago. I thought, okay, I want to be a small business owner. I want to make my own app. Let's try to make a social podcast app. So that's where my journey started. I was very naive, very inexperienced, well, no experience as a product developer and as a small business owner. But that's where I started. Long story short, that didn't work out. That product never launched, but I had to make I had to make something of it. I had to make it work because I had friends and family who were trusting me, and they had lent me their money, and I was not going to give up, right? Because I have
Yeah.
to pay my friends and family back for the investment they put into me. So that made failure not an option, and I from that point I pivoted the company and the product to an agency
Mm.
because I had built an app for myself. I knew the process, and we had the technology that we could then white label and um, make it available for other podcasts to put their name on it and use all the features of it. So that was the beginning. We've moved on from that. We
Mhm.
don't have our own proprietary software anymore. We use a vendor, but
Mhm.
um, that's how the idea for the business evolved over time. And yeah, I've been working on this particular agency model for, like I said, a year and about 2 months.
Great, that's great. And when you mentioned that white label, actually, I do have a day job, and the company that I work in, they're actually doing all this white label
Mhm.
stuff for NFTs and Web3 sort of things they've been doing for a long time. And I'm really intrigued, like for podcasting apps, like what's actually the process of it? Like, when someone approaches you, from there, I probably think you'll have a discovery call, and then, some blah, 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 it's happening. So can you like just give a brief on how this process actually goes?
Yeah, for me, usually it starts with the discovery call, like you said. If you go to my website, which is Custommobile.app, you'll see the call to action there is schedule a 15-minute call with me,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a conversation, because it's having an app for your show still isn't all that common.
Yeah.
It's not something that maybe people think about naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to learn more, and usually I'll have a conversation with them about what are the benefits of having an app for your show? Why should you even want an app for your show? And then after the conversation, um, the follow-on action is to join me on Patreon. So Patreon is the way that I organize my members and manage my membership.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 2 monthly membership tiers. One is for a single show, which is $25 a month. And then
Mm-hmm.
the other is for a network. If you have many shows under your network, you can make a network app for $50 a month. So
Mm-hmm.
just 2 tiers. It's very simple, because it's just me owning and operating the business. I try to keep it as simple as possible. And I do everything. I wear every hat. So I'm the one doing customer onboarding. I'm the one building the apps. I'm the one doing customer service.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll deal with me if you decide to join and become a member.
Awesome. So, the one thing I'm really like amazed is that you one guy like doing everything. Like, to be honest, I think it's sort of an inspiration for me as well, because I've been trying to do soul handedly for a long time. Then I kind of hired a few people, for the things that I've been doing. But it's really great, man. So respect, absolute respect, to be honest.
And I do it mostly for the learning opportunity. Like
Yeah.
I learned so much, and I'm growing professionally and personally by wearing every hat. So that's a huge benefit of having and starting my own small business. I'd love for it to grow to a point where I could hire others to help
Mm-hmm.
with customer support or selling, sales, marketing. I'm not there yet. So until I get there, I'll be the one doing all of that and learning how to do all of that. So
Well, all the best for that. I'm sure it will definitely go to a big heights. So, the other curious thing I want to ask is like, I'm sure you said that 40 podcasters actually, using your, service right now. And can you like give a couple or, like 3 to 4 things, like why actually would a podcaster need a separate app? Like the reasons that,
yeah.
they are, even ask for, or things that you had in mind, when you started out. So
Yeah.
it would be great.
Yeah. So a great thing about an app is it's in the pockets of your listeners. It's the access is unparalleled.
Mm.
So if you can get a listener to download your app, you're on their phone, and their phone is with them wherever they go. So it's about as close a connection to your listener as you could have. There's that benefit of it. Also, like once it's on the phone, that app is like the front door to your home.
Mhm.
It's where you can offer your listeners not just the podcast content, but all the other content you're probably creating.
Yeah.
You probably have a YouTube channel, you probably have a blog, and then besides the content, which you can all put into one place, it's also the place where you could sell to your customers. So you might have
Mhm.
merchandise you're selling to monetize your podcast. You might be building an email list, right? So this is where your listeners could join your email list, your newsletter. It's where they can support you on Patreon if you have a
Mhm.
Patreon account to monetize. So that content and monetization, those 2 things happen on your app. And that would be the primary benefit of trying to get as many listeners to download your app as possible.
Mhm.
And you've got to give your listeners a reason, right? They're not going to
Yeah.
do it just because you tell them to. There's got to be a benefit to downloading the app. And that would be exclusive content normally. I
Mhm.
see a lot of that. Um, exclusive content is like the primary thing I've seen. Like if you download the app, you'll get this content, this audio, maybe this video that you can only get through the app. So get the app, and then once they get the app, the door is open for you as the content creator to further develop that relationship with your listener and ultimately nurture them along so that they do become a supporter.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Understood. And the one point that you mentioned is the exclusive content, and I think it's really coming at a large space right now because first thing where I noticed is that the YouTube membership programs. So even though like you have like millions of subscribers to it, there would be a lot of people who actually pay to watch your content. So some people join the memberships, and right now I think a lot of people are doing Discord communities, and a lot of people are like even I think even when an app, especially what Joe Rogan did, like exclusive content only on Spotify, the audio and video, everything on Spotify. So I guess this actually gives a lot of opportunity. But one of my doubts is, if in case the podcast app gives everything, okay, so from start to finish, like email marketing, supplies, and monetization and everything, do you think it would make sense that the podcast should be only on on that app, or should it be on
Mhm.
the normal listening platforms as well?
So I think for most podcasters, you're going to want your podcast everywhere, available
Mhm.
everywhere. Um, because yeah, most podcasters don't have as big enough of an audience like Joe Rogan to
Mhm.
make their show exclusive on Spotify or
Yeah,
exclusively in your own app.
yeah.
So I think it makes sense for most podcasters to have a public RSS feed, get your
Mhm.
content out as far and wide as possible. But
Mhm.
for your super fans, give them something extra that they want to pay for, and your app
Mhm.
could be that thing that they're willing to pay for to get extra content,
Mhm.
maybe closer communication with you, the creator,
Mhm.
access. So there's all these extra things you can provide your paid members,
Mhm.
and that's a great way to monetize your content and make it a sustainable business.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, that makes more sense. So I really want to get into this one important fact. How did you actually market your service? Because a lot of people out there are trying to create podcast products. To be honest, I am like trying to create a regional product for my state. Just to make sure that I can connect the podcast to see it, because there isn't actually much podcasters rising up right now, but it's a huge market. India is kind of like a huge market, so it's kind of like a big opportunity. So like how do you market for that? I see a lot of podcasts out there, but they really fail in the marketing. What did you do? I mean, you're a software guy. I mean, this must be pretty
And
interesting for you.
I can speak about how I do marketing, and then I
Yeah.
can talk about how I've seen other smaller shows
Mhm.
market very successfully. So starting with myself, I have
Mhm.
no budget for marketing.
Mhm.
The only marketing I do is direct marketing. So I reach out to you directly on Podmatch, which is a directory of podcasters that matches with guests. That's, to be honest, that's primarily what I do. I reach out directly to my target customers and try to have
Mhm.
a conversation. And my hope is, as my community grows, as my customer base grows, and they're happy with the product, they're going to tell their friends. It'll be
Mhm.
word of mouth that will start to generate and grow, and I'll have to do less direct selling.
Mhm.
So that's my strategy right now. I'm not spending on paid advertising at all. And as a consumer, as a podcast listener, yeah, for me, I do listen to a lot of smaller shows.
Mhm.
How did I discover them? I discovered them primarily through the shows I listen to already. So if I'm
Mhm.
listening to a show already and um, they play the episode of a show that I don't know,
Yeah.
that's been a primary way that I've discovered new shows. And if that
Mhm.
episode is good, I'll look
Mhm.
them up, and
Mhm.
I'll try some more episodes, and I'll subscribe to them. So that's a huge way for me to discover new shows, is when they're sampled inside a show I'm already listening to.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's called. Maybe it's called cross promotion. They've got some kind of a membership
Yeah.
or a partnership, right? So they're helping each other expose content to each other's audiences, separate audiences.
Mhm.
That's the way I've discovered shows. Another way I've discovered shows, less common, is I've seen ads for shows. I've seen an
Mhm.
ad for a show on a newsletter I follow,
Mhm.
and it's a tiny show, but when I listened to it, because the hook was very catching. The hook was, um, this guy actually was diagnosed with brain cancer last summer, and they had one or two episodes up. And the premise of the show was, it was him just talking about his journey, being
Mhm.
diagnosed, and what it's going to be like in real time for him going forward with treatment, with family, and everything. And so the hook was very moving,
Mhm.
and the content was, uh, it was there. The quality was there. and the story was there, and so it grabbed me, and so I subscribed that way. I think for me, content, the quality of the content is going to be number one. If the
Mhm.
quality is there, then I believe the audience will come
Yeah.
because they'll share it. Yeah, I mean, I've discovered other podcasts recently because I've searched for them,
Mhm.
specifically searched for um, like topic areas that I want to learn more about.
Mhm.
So very recently, I've gotten really into something called ethnography. You may have come across this word in product, and anthropology. So
Yeah.
applied ethnography, as it relates to product management and like in the business context in general. And I didn't know any podcasts off the bat, so I had to search. So I went to Google. I don't actually know. I went into my podcast app, Google podcast, and I searched for those keywords, and I just tried the shows that came up, and I tested them out for content, and I've subscribed to one or two that I'm continuing to listen to. So that's another way I've discovered shows. So making sure that I think your show is searchable by the keywords that you want to be found under
Mhm.
is going to be another way that people will find you. Yeah, those are some thoughts that come to mind in terms of discoverability.
Got it. And I think I really like the fact that you mentioned, you prefer the quality of the podcast, when you're prospecting, because if the podcaster can give more quality, then possibly he can pay more as well. That's like a general phenomenon. Like, the more
Absolutely.
quality is like, the possibly the guy has the more money to pay. So I guess that's really a good point that you mentioned.
And in terms of quality, like I'm not talking about audio quality. For me,
Mm-hmm.
actually, audio quality doesn't matter as much.
Mm-hmm.
If the quality of the content itself is useful to me,
Yeah.
then I will suffer through terrible audio quality because I want to get to that information.
Yeah.
From a listener perspective, I know a lot of podcasters care a lot about audio quality, but from a listener's perspective,
Hmm.
it's the value of the actual content itself that I'm looking for.
Got it. Got it. Wow, I think that might be, put ease a lot of people's minds, like a lot of podcasters' mind. They were like trying really hard, to be honest. Like, I kind of discovered this when I kind of created an episode. It's called "I Am in Love." I dedicated this because it has no connection to my brand right now. So when I was having that was like the high performing episode ever, and the
Mm.
audio quality was so bad. I was cursing all the time. I had no idea what I was saying. I was really young. I was in college, so it's still people really love that. I had no idea why. So I guess
Mhm.
that what you mentioned is really it is true, when it comes to content quality and everything. Great. So before going into the some of the couple of final sections, so you said it's like it's around like 1 o'clock there, right? It's 1 o'clock.
That's it,
Yeah,
like
1:20.
120.
Yeah. Okay. So this is always now out of the question, like out of the box question I always ask my guest. So who was actually the last person that you made smile yesterday?
But I made smile yesterday. That's a hard question. Did I make anyone smile? I hope I made my son smile, but I also made him frown a lot too. Um,
It's like more
Probably
difficult than
my
a
wife.
podcasting question.
This is very difficult. Yeah, yeah. I don't make many people smile, to be honest with you. Like my wife is suffering through a cold at the moment, so she's miserable. My son has like an attitude problem as a 6-year-old. I'm trying to fix the attitude problem, so it's up and down. Um, yeah, no one. I didn't make anyone smile yesterday.
Oh. I think your son or wife would have. I mean, they would be smiling after seeing this clip. Once they shared. I think that would definitely be happening. Wow. Awesome. So, just coming to the final section is that now we just want to talk about the UI UX, in podcast app. Like right now, I can see a lot of trends are coming in this space, and as a product manager, like you must have gone through a lot of stuff to make sure that like the smooth flow is there in each and every single application or website and everything. So for a
Mm.
podcaster, like how important do you think it is? Like, is it important that it's just could be fine, or it should be like really important, like how much level, and how can they make it better? That'd be great.
Is your question How important is the user experience as a podcaster?
For the podcaster, to the listener.
And when you say user experience, are you speaking specifically about an app, or are you
An
saying more
app,
generally the
an
listener
app,
experience?
an app,
Oh,
possibly, like,
okay.
things that if in case they create an app, from you, their, thoughts about the user experience kind of, like, because some people are like design geeks, to be honest. Like they will be like,
Oh, yeah.
they'll be so important the design stuff. So
It is
yes.
important. I think a
Yeah.
lot of us nowadays, our tolerance for bad design is very low, right?
Yeah.
We're all very used to well-designed apps and very performant, intuitive apps. So if you're gonna make an app, I mean, unless you're some guru, some famous person, right? You're gonna want your app to be well-designed and performant, or else people are not gonna tolerate it. They're just gonna delete it. So it's just table stakes now for apps to be well-designed and performant. So
Mhm.
it's really important. And our apps, because we use a vendor
Mhm.
who's been around for, I think, 8 years,
Mhm.
they're the designs that they have in the UX, it's all there. It's
Yeah.
modern, it's performant, and they're native applications.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Got it. So, this is a curious question. I think a lot of people would be having, like, what's the difference between the user interface and user experience?
Yeah, I think user interface is just what you see, right?
Okay.
The buttons, the look.
Hmm.
User experience, I would define that as um, beyond just the formatting of
Mm-hmm.
the or the look of the interface.
Mm-hmm.
It's the experience of the person navigating inside the app. Like, what's my experience clicking through, finding my wayfinding inside the app? How
Mm-hmm.
intuitive is it? Um, or how frustrating is it? I would say that is, for me, the user experience, as opposed to just the look, the colors, and
Yeah.
the styles.
Understood. And I think as a podcaster, like, the one point I want to mention is that if you go to Spotify and, you search for everything, and the one thing I really love is they give you like a personalized, playlist, let it be a songs or podcast. That'll be so amazing. I don't even know how they take all the information from just by your clicks, but it will be so amazing what they give. But Amazon Music is also like releasing podcast and songs in the same way, but that's not like it's like 20% or 30% of Spotify, like, what they get and everything. So I think as a podcaster, like, a lot of people would want that as well. So yeah, I think that's really good thing
When you
that they
say
do.
20%, you mean is 20% as good, as relevant as Spotify, or
Yeah, like,
um,
for example, if Spotify is 100% means this is like 30%, it will be like,
got it? It's, yeah,
yeah.
it's not as good, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the thing. I mean, it's at least it's just my thoughts, because I tried Spotify like paid version. It doesn't feel like Spotify at all. It's like when you have ads on Spotify, it feels like it's actually Spotify. When you don't have ads,
Hmm.
it's like, when you listen to Tim Ferriss shows, okay, if you listen it without ads, like what he says,
Mhm.
it's like it doesn't feel
Mhm.
like his show at all. The way he performs ads is like, oh my god, I want to buy that product right now. So it will be like how he's kind of
Mhm.
mentioning. So I don't know, I'm just kind of a
Mhm.
weird guy when it comes to this advertisement, since I'm in the marketing space. I don't, possibly.
No, that's true. I will listen to ads sometimes also, just to keep up with, like, oh, what is this? Like, what's this new brand I haven't listened to or heard
Yeah.
about before? So sometimes I will listen. Most times I will skip through, though. I like fast
Yeah,
forward.
got it. Awesome. So, John, thank you so much for hopping on the show. We talked a lot of different things. And is there any point that you want to add before going to the final stuff, like especially in this app creation for podcasters?
Yeah. Well, Jeffrey, thank you for the time to speak with your audience. I think your audience are my target audience. They're
Yeah.
podcasters, right? So they can find me at Custommobile.app. That's the URL. And if they mention they came through your show, Jeffrey, I'll give them their first month free, so they can try it for free. I'll build them an app. They can test it out themselves, and only if they like it, we can continue forward. But try it risk free. Say you came through Jeffrey, and we'll get started.
That's really great. So, guys, definitely I put the link in the below, so you can just go and check it out. So, please mention my name. It's kind of a unique name, when it comes from podcasting space. So, enjoy that. Is there anything else like you want to ask me? Like tables turned right now?
Um, well, maybe a little bit more about your journey. Like, how long have you been podcasting? And yeah, what do you see is the future of this space in India? You mentioned
Yeah,
the
yeah,
potential you see.
yeah. So my journey, I'll say it in a short length, because mostly when this journey comes, I really talk long. So I'm trying to reduce that. So like every, college boy's dream, I had my heart broken when I was in college. I was like,
Hmm.
oh my God, what is happening? Depression and everything was there. And Instagram was there. And, you see a lot of people doing cool things. And when you come to Instagram, you're like, what is happening? Why can't I do those stuff? Then I saw the advertisement of Gary Vaynerchuk talking about podcasting. So I was like, okay, let's just give it a try. Then I jumped on. It was like 2018. So I've been
Hmm.
probably doing like 4 years right now, but I kind of streamlined the podcasting on 2020 after lockdown. Before that, I was also doing, but I got into the idea of podcast for podcasting from 2020. So
Hmm.
that's how it started. And the potential in India is, it's really, really like, because since the market is also huge, a lot of people are right now listening to podcasters. And the one thing I really want to focus on is the regional languages. Like, India is
Hmm.
like, there are like multiple languages out there. We have like a lot of different languages. So I'm just trying to focus on my native language, Tamil. So, to build shows on that, to make sure I'm kind of like, promoting that. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts for now. But let's see how it rolls.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's great to be one of the first movers, right? And you
Yeah.
can capture that opportunity. And I love the fact that you're at a point in your development where you're teaching everything you've learned.
Yeah.
Something that I've been thinking about recently is it's really it's a good idea to get good enough at whatever it is you're working
Mhm.
on to be able to teach it in the future.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be very valuable, not just personally but professionally.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, because I think about my career a lot too. Like if I find myself in a position where I'm not learning anything practical that I could teach to someone in the future, my job becomes more risky. I could lose
Yeah.
that job and not be able to find another one. But if I have a skill that I can actually teach others to do, whether it's product management
Yeah.
or I'm learning jujitsu now. So even something
Oh,
like that, where
nice.
you can get to be a black belt and you can actually teach others,
Yeah.
opportunities present themselves in the future when you become like a master at whatever your
Yeah.
craft is. So I like that you're on that trajectory as well.